Hello, hi. Can you hear me? We just want to check our mics before we
Can
start.
you hear me?
I can hear you. Good evening.
Great. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Ayo. Thank you for joining. Okay, so let's just get right into it, right? Once again, thank you everybody for signing in. It promises to be an interesting session. So today we'll be talking about tech and the digital economy. In light of the recent happenings in the world, right, because of COVID-19 and everything, it's been very interesting. More than ever, we've had to depend on technology for a lot of things, for work, for connecting with friends, or connecting with family. I mean, I was on a work call on Google Meet today for like 6 hours, and I would not have imagined that I had to do all those type of things. But it's been very interesting, and we cannot overemphasize how important tech is for us right now. And so, I don't think there's a better time to have this conversation. So, yeah, um, to walk us through it today, we'll be talking with Ayode Akinfemiwa. Is the business agency manager at Google Nigeria. He's a digital transformation enthusiast with years of experience working with large advertising agencies in Africa. Ayode is passionate about the application of digital technology to marketing challenges and the transformation of industries. Um, Earlier in the week, I got to have a conversation with him when we we're preparing for this, and he's so insightful. We got to share a bit, a tiny bit actually of his story, and it's just really amazing. And I don't think that there's a better person to have this conversation with. So I will be handing over to Ayo for him to walk us through his presentation. But while his presentation is on, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat box, and we'll walk through it after the presentation. So Ayo, are you ready for us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. All right. So please pay attention, take notes. A lot of nuggets are going to be dropping, so just pay attention, take notes, and glean as much as you can. Okay, over to you, Ayo.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me in this session. How long do I have? 1 hour.
I wish, I really wish. You have about 25 minutes.
Okay, I can use the whole day if you give me. Um, okay, so thank you everyone for attending. Thanks for inviting me. And in the few minutes that we have together, I'll be sharing some of my knowledge and experience, as well as my story in technology, in digital, and some applications for young professionals, young adults, etc. It's interesting these days with COVID-19 and the pandemic. Technology and data has been at the forefront because we've all been forced to get into it, whether or not we wanted to. But it was inevitable that technology would drive a big part of our life, our work, our play. And so the recent pandemic has only just accelerated that change. So I'll just talk a bit of my, from my own point of view, how I see the space, what opportunities I see coming out. And towards the end, I'll try to skew it more towards how, young professionals, young adults who are, starting their career, in the middle of their career, can really take advantage of these solutions that are available. So I'm going to share my screen and walk us through a short presentation that I developed. So let me share. Next second, I need to grant access.
Okay. Okay, I think Ayo has been disconnected. I'm sure he's going to join us back in a bit. Or I could just share the screen from this side, this end. Okay, so we're having a session on technology, and technology decides to show itself. Okay, hi, is back. Do you want me to share the slide from this end? You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I said, do you want me to share it from here?
Let me try to share one last time. Just grant me access. I think it should work now.
Okay, yeah, great. We can see it now. Well, I can see it now.
Cool. So,
if you can see, please let us know. If you can't see his screen, please let us know.
can you still see?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'll talk about technology and digital economy very quickly, and then share, my story, my experience, etc. Quick introduction: I'm Ayo, based in Lagos. Work at Google as agency manager. Basically, that means that I work with advertising agencies and help them use Google technology to grow their brands and help their brands drive value on the internet. So, I wanted to paint a picture of, the evolution of things, the evolution of the world, the industries, etc. And so if you went back in time to 2007, and you look at the top 10 companies, right? So top 10 companies by market capitalization, you'll be looking at ExxonMobil, GE, Microsoft, Gazprom, Bank of America, Toyota, Citibank, Shell, BP. And these are mainly oil companies, right? So on the list, you'd have 4 oil companies, 3 banks, 1 conglomerate, 1 automaker, and 1 software company, right? And I mean, these are the companies that our parents will tell us to work hard in school so that we can, make it into these places. And if you made it into these places, then you're probably made, for the foreseeable future, right?
Yes,
And it makes
please.
sense, right? And this is a little over 15 years ago, right? So not too long. I want to imagine that we have older people here. But if you fast forward to 2017, so 10 years after, using the same criteria again, you'd see um, the companies on the list are very different. So now you'd see companies like Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Berkshire Hathaway, Amazon, ExxonMobil still there, Facebook, Johnson and Johnson, JP Morgan, etc. And that's 5 technology companies, 2 conglomerates, 1 pharmaceutical, 1 bank, and 1 oil company. So we've gone from a time where we used to have 4 oil companies and 3 banks, 7, to having just 1 oil company and 1 bank.
No bank.
And this is 2017, right? At this time, we didn't think about anything like COVID or coronavirus or any other pandemic. Now, fast forward again to 2020, and you can see the list keeps changing, and technology companies keep growing and getting moving out other traditional companies from the list and displacing them. And so by 2020 you have 7 technology companies on that list, 1 oil company. In fact, this 1 oil company that was there only happened because Aramco, Saudi Aramco, went public last year, and by virtue of they going public, they became the #1 most capitalized company in the world, right? So just 1 oil company, 1 pharmaceutical company, and 2 conglomerates, right? Conglomerates being, companies like Johnson and Johnson, etc. And it just shows how the world is changing, how technology and digital companies are becoming more important in our lives, and their importance is showing up in the markets. They being more highly valued than your traditional companies. And I think this is just an indication of what the future would look like. Today, most people tend to think about their technology companies, their digital companies, and then their other companies. I like to think about it as all companies or all industries today are digital industries. All industries are technology companies, whether or not you realize it, right? And the recent event in the world is only highlighting the fact that we are all technology companies just applying technology in different industries. Going to my next slide, and I'm showing what we call the five horsemen, and it's Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, and Facebook. And chances are you've used a product from at least two of the companies on this list, if not four of the companies on this list. You either have an iPhone or an Android phone. You've probably been on Facebook or Instagram today. You've probably searched on Google or YouTube, and literally doing it as we speak. In the fourth industrial revolution, which we currently live in, it's not so much oil and physical assets. The goal is really data. And so the companies that control data and have the most data, have the most power. Right? And that's why you find that these platforms here are more highly valued than your traditional industry. In fact, while I was putting this together, I looked up the size of the African economy, and it's $2.56 trillion. I think I think Amazon and Microsoft would easily purchase the whole of Africa. Right? That's how highly valued these companies are and how powerful they are. I don't even think it's in their best interest to purchase the whole of Africa. It probably won't be that, let me not
That was a big deal.
But just shows how important technology, digital, and data is becoming a crucial part of our lives, a crucial part of the economy. It is. What's interesting is that if you go to Southeast Asia, you go to China, um, you know, personally, I think they're even 5 years ahead or 10 years ahead of the rest of the world in terms of their digital and technology adoption. And so easily you can go there and see what the future might possibly look like, and see what the implications would be for us back here. As I mentioned earlier, most industries are digital, right? Whether or not they admit it. And so I wanted to ask, right? Think about where you work today, your company, whether it's publishing, construction, healthcare, retail, farming and agriculture, media and entertainment, logistics, mining, transportation, fashion. Every one of these companies are digital. In fact, what's interesting is that the companies in these industries that are more digital are more valuable than the other traditional companies. So if you look at healthcare, for instance, the companies that use a lot of technology and data in their healthcare value chain have a lot more value than your regular healthcare institutions, right? Only because the data they have, their use of technology allow them to scale, to move with speed, and to grow their capitalization and value much faster than traditional companies are able to. So literally all industries are data. And so if you are not paying attention to the digital trends and technology, then your chances are your company or you yourself as an individual might be outdated in the near future, right? So think about your industry, whether you're in agriculture or you're in mining, you have to think about what are the applications of technology to my industry? How can we scale? How can we move faster? How can we offer services, cheaper, better, more efficient, more effective, etc., using technology that's available today, right? As I mentioned, China is an interesting place. I was there recently before COVID, and it's fascinating to see the adoption of technology. Interestingly, I didn't see any beggar, but we hear a lot that there are beggars who now even receive arms with QR codes and ATM machines.
Amazing.
And this is how advanced these guys are. In Nigeria, the average beggar has a smartphone, right? He doesn't show you, but it's right there. And
Yeah.
probably on Facebook and Instagram with the rest
They're
of
cashing out.
exactly. These guys are catching up. So it only means that this is the first time in the history of the world where there'll be a personalized, ubiquitous media, a media form that is unique to every individual. In the past, the media forms that were available were such that we all had to congregate behind a television or behind a newspaper, etc. But now we all have a device that is unique to individuals and is personalized to individuals. And so if you think about the future of technology, you start to see where things are heading towards, from virtual reality and augmented reality to biotech and implants to self-driving cars and 5G. The one that is most interesting to me at this point in time is a technology called Neuralink. You might have heard about it. Elon Musk he's one of the guys driving it. It's actually the name of his company. And essentially, Neuralink is technology. It's pretty much an implant that allows your brain to interface with a computer. And the hypothesis behind that is the fact that you know the brain is capable of a lot more than we currently task it. However, our input and output is much slower, which means that, for instance, if I were to send a message to you and you're not in front of me, I have to pick up my phone and type with my fingers and type maybe, "Hi, Tolu, how are you?" and press enter. But I'll probably spend a few seconds trying to send 0.0001 KB of data. And that's very, very slow bandwidth. So how about if there was an implant in my head that can transmit that data much faster to you, that can, take in data, process data, retain data, and all of those things much faster, only because the brain is much capable than what we currently use. And that's what Elon Musk company is trying to build with Neuralink, which is literally a computer brain interface. So in the future, I won't have to come into my house and put on the light and the television and pick up my phone and make a call. I just have to think about it, and those
And
actions.
it happens.
Right?
Amazing.
And it's just one of several technologies that's being driven today. So let's come back to today. Let's come back home to Nigeria. And see, what does the technology landscape look like? What do the industries look like? How do we position ourselves, etc. The size of the digital economy is about $11.5 trillion today, and it's growing. Already represents 15 to 16% of the global economy. In Nigeria, it's not at this size, but it's growing, right? And to sort of like understand the growth that is happening in Nigeria, if we look at the venture capital landscape, right? So how much investment is coming to technology companies, technology startups in Africa and in Nigeria? You can see the growth from 2015 to 2019, and you can see the hockey stick, right? So basically, Africa is one of those last frontiers where technology innovation is literally waiting to really take up, only because a lot of legacy challenges haven't been solved, and technology is one outlet to really fix and solve those problems. And so you can see a lot of venture capital money coming here because there are a lot of opportunities to be solved. Specifically, if we look at Nigeria, Nigeria is easily taking up about 50% of the total venture capital coming to Africa. So in the midst of this Nigeria that we are all complaining about, it's difficult, it's challenging, blah, blah, blah. People are actually investing a lot of cash only because there are a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of challenges that have been solved elsewhere in the world, but are waiting to be solved here in Nigeria. And technology is a leveler, right? Technology democratizes information. I have access to the same open source code, open source technology that someone in the most advanced part of the world, like Southeast Asia, has access to, right? And so I can build solutions, I can write code, I can work on services and products and deliver it not just in Nigeria, but the whole of Africa and even to the whole of the world, right? So you can see the industries that are attracting this capital, right? From fintech to clean tech, agri-tech, health tech, ride-hailing in companies, etc. Right? So it's not just in the regular fintechs that most people think, even though fintech is taking a good chunk of total VC cash that is coming to Africa, but healthcare, agri, transportation, all of these other industries are also pulling their weight and taking a lot of capital, which just basically means that there are a lot of opportunities and people are identifying that opportunities and attracting investment, building solutions to address it. 5 years ago, if you had to save money or maintain a savings account, you had to rely on your traditional banks. Today, you don't have to go to the banks. You can do all of that with your piggy bank. In fact, there are more digital banks coming up every other day today than you are hearing about your traditional banks, right? From the Kudas to the Rubies and to the Ayode, there's a million. Like I've lost track of all the digital banks.
A lot. I have so many bank accounts now.
In fact, the banks. So in my role, we work a lot with some of the top banks in Nigeria, and you can hear the banks saying their objectives today is to reduce the traffic coming into the bank. Not even in light of COVID-19, even pre-COVID-19, they're trying to reduce the foot traffic to the bank and digitize more of their value chain such that you won't have to come to the bank to transact with the bank. The technology to all of this stuff is already available, but the institutions haven't really caught up to the technology. I'll try to move a bit faster because of time and so that we can have time to talk. So going a bit more into, what companies are, attracting the funding, what industries. You can see InterSwitch, OPay, Andela, Branch, Copy, a lot of fintechs, pulling in their weight. What is interesting for me is that you'd find a good number of companies that didn't exist here 7 years ago on this list, right?
Branch.
Andela, Branch, CarePay, etc. They were nowhere, you didn't know about them a few years ago, and a lot more companies that are not even on this list, attracting investment. Interestingly enough, you'd find that in terms of employee satisfaction and places to work, besides the big dogs like Chevron, you'd have more professionals willing to work in these startups and fintechs, especially the ones that have raised capital, than you'd find in those that want to work in traditional legacy companies, only because these guys are pushing the boundaries of innovation, of work culture, of adoption of technology, of even career growth and development and all of that stuff. So clearly, the future is digital. The future is going to be technology led, and it's very important that everyone, regardless of your area of expertise, your role, you're really getting on this trend and finding how to maximize technology and the digital economy to grow yourself as an individual and as a professional. Yeah, I thought it was important to show these pictures because beyond the numbers, beyond all the talk, you find that the CEOs of some of the companies I showed at the beginning are actually coming down here to see what is going on, right? Like, why is Nigeria such a big deal? And so you can see, Jack Dorsey. Hello, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I think we lost you for a bit.
Okay. Can you see my slides now?
Yes, this works.
Okay. So I was talking about how the CEOs of these top, not just top tech companies, but literally top companies in the world are coming to Nigeria, from Jack Dorsey to Sundar Pichai to Mark Zuckerberg, etc., and trying to find out what is going on. And what I find very interesting is that when they come around, the companies they visit are more of the younger companies, the guys that only started a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago.
Yes.
And those are the companies of the future. Even the banks are now more worried about these fintechs than they are about their traditional competitors, only because of the scale and speed at which these guys are innovating. So, having said all of that, how to take advantage of these opportunities. One of the things that we are finding is that the digital era requires a different set of skills, right? And you can already hear from companies like consulting companies that are telling you that you no longer need a college degree to work in the company. And I know Bain and Co would tell you that you no longer need a college degree to work in here if you have really good expertise with regards to analytics, programming, analysis, problem solving with evidence and experience. Then you are qualified to at least get into the interviews and all of that stuff. So we can say that even the future of work is already changing. The skill sets that were in demand back in the days when the banks and the oil companies were the top companies have evolved to a period where it's more of companies that are pushing innovation and transformation much faster. And I'm also involved in a few startups, and um, I find that when those startups are hiring, for them it's not so much how great your
Your
resume.
degree.
It's not a degree. I've seen engineering companies hire people who did social sciences and political sciences and all of that stuff. But what you'll find is that these folks, and I'll share my story, in a few slides from now. These folks have gone beyond just settling for their regular college degrees to actually developing themselves and building skills. You have someone who studies political science in school, but leaving school, he spent years just writing code, right? And literally tell him to build anything and you build it for you in 2-3 days, right? Like if you can write Python and Vue.js and React and Node.js and all of these other great programming language for me in 2 days, I don't care what kind of degree or what class or CGPA you graduated with. I would hire you, right? I don't care what degree you came out with. If you studied mass communication, if you are a master in crafting words, in wordsmithing, putting together a good story, in creating content that really resonates with consumers, then it doesn't really matter
Obvious.
who you graduated with. I would hire you, right? And that's what we're saying today. And so, if you look at the top 10 in-demand skills on the soft side of things, you'd find that in 2015, skills like complex problem solving, coordinating with others, people management, critical thinking, negotiation, quality control, service orientation, judgment and decision making, active listening, creativity were the most in demand skills. Now, these skills are still relevant, only that the priority of them, for a lot of them, have changed. So in the past, you had skills like coordinating people at number two, and this is based on World Economic Forum analysis. Um, but skills like critical thinking and creativity are now really, really important. Back in the day, nobody really cared about creativity. Just come into the job and do what your employer asked you to do and deliver
Yeah.
the. Today, companies are literally optimizing for creativity, trying to create environments, incentives, work structure that enhances and boosts creativity. Only because creativity drives innovation, right? And it's just interesting to see how these things are changing, how the skills of the past are becoming irrelevant to the skills of today. Okay, so moving on, just some of my some quick points on thriving in digital economy, some things to be conscious of. For me, the first thing is to be open to change. Back in the days, the career path was very linear. You knew I had to come in at an entry level, graduate, trainee, and then move up the rank and then get promoted and all of that stuff. So it was a very linear path to progression. Today, it's very non-linear. It's more of a metric structure to progressing, right? So you come in at whatever entry level you are in, but you might probably move into a role that is completely different from what you studied back in school, but for which you have transferable skills, right? And you stay in that role for a few years, and perhaps you might leave that company and go do something entirely different, perhaps even go run your own stuff for a few years, and then that takes you one, two steps beyond what you would have gone through if you went through a linear path. And so we're finding that the career path for most people, and for me, I look at some of my colleagues, especially some of my ex-colleagues, and I can see that same career path is very non-linear. In fact, millennials today, maybe in Nigeria, it's still slightly different, only because the landscape is a bit challenging. Things like unemployment is still really quite high, but you will still find that the average tenure for professionals has dropped significantly than what it used to be back in the day. So you'd have
Mm.
a few years ago, people are content to spend 10 years plus in one organization. However, today you check the resume of the average young person, and he's only done 1.5 years in one company in 7 years, right? Some people not even up to that, only
For
because, especially for people who know they have valuable skills that people are looking for, right? And so if you have it, you might as well explore. And it has its own pros and cons. But the long and short is that the path to progression for career and within companies is no longer linear. The next point here is learn, unlearn, relearn, right? Things change so fast that, as individuals and professionals, you have to question your own assumptions. You might think, this is the way to do things. This is the way things have always been. But very quickly, those things change. And if you stay with that assumption that you've always had, you can really sideline very quickly. And so it's important that we're constantly questioning our own assumptions, learning, finding out what the best practices are, what the latest thinking are, and trying to relearn those things. The third point, which is very important here, is digitizing and automating your work. The rule today is that whatever is repetitive should be automated, right? If you are doing the same task every day, so let me look for an example. Say you work in a financial services company, and one of your tasks is to pull a report every day, analyze the report, and send it to your bosses. And every single day you have to go into that dashboard and download that report and analyze it, maybe just do a quick summary and send it to your report. Then you should automate that task, right? Find a way to write a script to have that report sent to your boss every day. And instead of you having to pull the report and download and send, you can automate it. And the only task you have to do is interpret the data from that report. or look for a way to build a dashboard with BI and Data Studio and other visualization tools available out there, and make that task simpler, right? The thing is that you being able to automate your work means that you are able to move much faster than you would if you're spending that same length of time on the same repetitive tasks every day. So find ways to digitize and automate your work. And that's literally the beginning of digital transformation for most companies. Fourth point here is get certified. I'll try to move faster. Fifth point is knowing the numbers. I don't care what role you are in. You need to know the numbers and the fundamentals of your industry. You know, what metrics are really critical to your industry? Is it the number of patients you handle? Is it the number of transactions you make? Is it the number of impressions and clicks? Find the numbers that are critical in your industry and understand the fundamentals that drive those numbers. The fifth or sixth point here is share your knowledge. Have a blog post and write and publish your knowledge. That's how to put yourself out there. If you're not on LinkedIn, that is a crime. You can be arrested for that. Get on LinkedIn. Build your own, your online resume, which is what LinkedIn is. But beyond building your online resume, start publishing. Write a short article, 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, and publish it. Very quickly, you start to build a reputation for yourself. More people start to see your work and start to reach out to you, start to reference you, etc. And that's how you build popularity for yourself as a professional. And if those things are too complex for you, then use social media. Put out content every day, simple content, simple bite-sized insights that you find, perhaps you read somewhere, and just start building some following and thought leadership reputation for yourself. Second to the last point here is find the experts in your industries, find the thought leaders in your industry and stalk them. Follow them, read what they write, network with them where the opportunity avails itself, etc. And then the last point here is stretch yourself. Always challenge yourself. That's something I personally try to do every year. And every time is I always try to push myself to my breaking point because they say the comfort zone is the place where nothing grows, right? And so what you think is unattainable for you, you'll be surprised when you attempt it. All of a sudden you start thinking about creative ways to make that thing happen, and it becomes a possibility, right? So find ways to stretch yourself, find ways to challenge yourself. Besides your day job, get a certification, volunteer for something, start a side gig where it makes sense. Start writing. Just find a way. And I know it's difficult to say and do, especially with all that's going on in the world today. But these are really critical things to really thrive in the digital economy, only because the pace of change and innovation is much faster. I know our time is running out, and I wanted to end. Sorry, before I end, I wanted to play this video and then just share my story very quickly.
As summer winds down and many head back to school or into the workforce, some unsolicited career advice, which I'm fairly certain will resonate and 100% certain you will ignore. 1, get certified. In the depths of the Great Recession, college grads enjoyed half the unemployment rate of high school graduates. Over the course of your lifetime, college grads are going to make an average 2 times what someone without a degree earns. If you can't find your way to college, then seek other certification, whether it's a Class 3 driver's license, scuba certification, or a degree in cosmetology. 2, be remarkable. Develop not just one area of expertise, but 2 skills that don't always naturally go together. Be the CFO who also understands what music should be played at your events. Be the creative director who knows how to use Excel. Just as Lindt chocolate brings together dark chocolate and chili peppers, what 2 attributes are you going to bring together that differentiate you? 3, find the variance. Look at the 6 or 8 things that are key to your firm's success and identify 1 or 2 of those where you can differentiate yourself by becoming an expert. If everyone's pretty good at PowerPoint, that's not where the variance is. But if some people can't string together a sentence and writing is important to your job, then try to become a great writer. 4, get to a city. Your zip code is a strong signal of future wealth. 2/3 of economic growth will take place in cities. Like tennis, when you rally with someone better than you, you improve. Being in a city forces you to rally with the best. 5, boring is sexy. Want to produce movies, work for Vogue, or open restaurants? Then you better receive a great deal of psychic income because your return on investment will be lousy. Software as a service for healthcare maintenance workers? Sounds awful. That's where the money is. 6, be willing to delay gratification. Einstein said the power of compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. This is true not only for money, but your own efforts. Every day, invest in something where the payoff won't come for several years, but aggregates. 7, demonstrate strength and grit. What do Fortune 500 CEOs have in common? Not that they went to Ivy League schools, nor that they were born into wealthy families, but they exercise every day. It's about being a stronger version of you. If shit gets real, you know you could kill and eat everyone in the room, which will make you feel more confident. By the way, I'm not suggesting you do this. 8, don't follow your passion. When a luncheon speaker tells people to follow their passion, it means they're already rich. The best tax lawyers aren't passionate about tax law. They're passionate about being great at something and the accoutrements of being the best in your field. 9, ignore the myth of balance. We've all heard about somebody who's great at their work, volunteers at the ASPCA, and runs a food blog. Assume you are not this person. I have a lot of balance in my life now. Why? Because I worked my ass off in my 20s and my 30s. It cost me my first marriage, it cost me my hair, and it was worth it. Finally, fight unfair. What are you willing to do that the majority of people around you aren't? I'm a professor with a decent amount of credibility, but there are dozens that have more credibility. I'm a good entrepreneur, but there are other more successful entrepreneurs. However, there are few professor entrepreneurs who are willing to put on wigs. Why do this? I'm fighting unfair. What are you willing to do that your colleagues won't? Fight unfair.
Okay, I'll stop there. And I'll share this deck and the link so you can watch it. But Professor Galloway is actually a professor of marketing at New York State University, and some very important and interesting career advice unsolicited from him. So very quickly, I think I have less than 10 minutes. I'll just run through my own story and experience. So very similar to a lot of, I think, the experience of a lot of young people today. You go into university wanting to study one thing, but you end up with something entirely different.
Yes.
I've always been passionate about computers and technology and all of that stuff, but for some weird reason, I ended up with a weird course that I cannot even tell you what it's about today. And what demography and social statistics. Good luck trying to figure out what that means. Interestingly, I found that the course is so bad that it's been scrapped today in university. That was what I had to study, but I knew that was not what I was going to spend my life doing. And so while studying them, interestingly, I was also the class rep for the course. So somehow they thought I was responsible and they made me the class rep. But while studying demography and social statistics, I was more interested in computers and technology. And so I would spend my time reading books from the likes of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Hewlett and Dave Packard and all of these guys, only to learn more about this topic that I was very interested in. Leaving university, like most people, did NYC. I did my NYC in the bank, at Skybank at the time. And working at the bank, I knew that this is not where I wanted to work. This is not my life. You have to wear suit every day. It's worse that you have to wear suits, but you have to wear a particular color of suit and tie. You have to be on your feet for most hours of the day. And I just like, this is not me. It was very monotonous. And it's great for some people, right? So I'm not saying banking is horrible, but you need to find out where your strengths are. For me, it wasn't banking. And so after post NYC, I had the opportunity to stay behind. I knew influential people in the bank, and they asked me to stay behind. In fact, they invited me for an interview. I literally didn't show up for the interview. But I just kept reading my books. I dusted my CV, packaged my CV as to the kind of role I wanted, and started applying randomly. And then I got an invitation for a company that did some mobile something. I didn't even know what it was about. Remember, I studied demography and social statistics. However, I showed up for the interview and told them of how I love technology and I read TechCrunch, blah, blah, blah. And they gave me the role, right? And that was literally how I started my career. The role was a business development role, which literally means sales, right? And it was my career with, right? And I was really passionate about it because having done my NYC in the bank, and then coming to this environment where everybody showed up in their t-shirts with a laptop and just walked in on the desk and started working. I was like, this is what I want to do, right? And I started working the role. I was really passionate. My role was sales to a large part, so I would look out for companies that fitted into the profile. Then it was digital marketing, but it was the early years of digital marketing, which is challenging. So I'd reach out to companies, schedule meetings, go to meet them, deliver our pitch. and left with my fingers crossed. And those pitches started converting to business, and started getting revenues. And I started really pushing myself. I hate sales. I like to think about myself as an introvert, but I had to do what I had to do at the time, only because that was my passion. I wanted to work in tech, in data, blah blah blah. So I had to stretch myself and did what I wasn't comfortable doing. For some reason, it was successful. My boss really liked me, and he gave me more responsibility. When my immediate manager left, they made me the manager of the team in a sense, quote unquote. And within a short while, now this is all within 2.5 years, right? Within a short while, the company had to expand to Kenya. And again, they called me up to take on that responsibility. I literally flew to Kenya by myself. I think, how old was I then? Maybe 21 or 22. I don't even remember. It was my first
Wow.
time. I had never left Nigeria before, but I was excited, right? I didn't even know what I was going to do, right? My mandate was go to Kenya and set up our operations there. We already had 1, 2 clients, so at least I had a place to start from. So I was going to meet with
Okay.
them. Long and short was I took on that responsibility again, stretched myself, went to Kenya, tried to figure things out, worked there for a few months, came back to Nigeria, and I didn't know where all of these things were leading to, right? I wasn't sure where all of these experiences was leading to. In fact, my parents would call me and ask me for my job at my company, and I wouldn't even be able to explain to them what it meant, right? They just understood that some telecom stuff. It wasn't even telecom, right? But anyways, it was an example of me stretching myself and pushing myself, but also trying to follow along an area that I was interested in. Now, all of these experiences that I had had within that 2, 3 year period in my first company really set me up for an opportunity that came up at Google a few years after, when they needed to hire someone with the exact skill set and experience that I had, right? And so I went through the process. That's a story for a different day, and I got that role, working at Google, and that was sort of my journey, and it has continued. So I think, for me, the long and short is that there are a lot of opportunities in the digital space and technology. Regardless of whatever your role is, you can find how to apply tech to what you currently do today. Simple things like automating your work, looking for how to use data to really, pull insight for your companies. Be the person that, as the video said, don't just be, if you're an HR person, it's great, but don't just be an HR person. Try to find an adjacent skill, an adjacent area. Perhaps be the HR person with great analysis or wordsmithing or even writing code, right? Like you literally can get on, there are platforms that let you go and learn how to write code today. Plural Insight, EDX, Coursera, all of these platforms are available out there that allow us build expertise. So I know I'm out of time, so I'll just take a pause here for questions or feedback or anything.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hayo. Thank you so much for sharing. We already have a couple of questions, right? But let's do a quick recap. Things that stood out for me while I was listening. The part where you say that if it is repetitive, it should be automated. I think for me, I work as admin, and even at work, there's this part of my job that requires me to generate receipts like monthly, and I find myself having to do it like one by one every month, going through Word, and I'm literally screaming for help. And
Yep.
then after a while, I discovered that, oh, we could get the developers to just make it automated on the website, and
Yep.
they can just put in the figures and it just automatically. I'm like, it's just beautiful what tech can do, the peace of mind that it gives you. And I think that also, like you said, share your knowledge. So that also stood out for me because I have a friend that is a UI UX designer,
Yep.
and so last year he redesigned Access Bank's app,
Okay.
and he just did it, right. So he just does all these things and changes stuff, and he just put it on Twitter, and he tagged Access Bank, and it was really nice, and people started retweeting and retweeting and retweeting. That time was at Team Fix, and jokingly Access Bank sends him an invite and says, you know what, we like this app, come and let's look at this. And while he was at Access Bank trying to do that, Sterling Bank sends him another invite and says, we want to work with you. And it was just funny. He had been at Simfix, and then all of a sudden Simfix was downsizing because of all the different things happening, and he lost his job. So it wasn't even like he wasn't great at the job, but they just could not keep him on at that time. So he had offers from all over, and he ended up, I think he went to Max. After a while, he went to, now he's currently at Carbon. So I know how important it is to always ensure that you put yourself out there. Like no matter how little it is, even if it's just a tweet, even if it's so there's this thing that people have been doing lately on LinkedIn. So they take all these online courses and then they come online and they say, oh, I just got certified in these and so yeah, it's I think it's very, very important that we put ourselves out there. Okay, so you also talked about getting certified and you mentioned a couple of websites that we can use. You could just go through them once more, places that you think that
so there are a couple. The popular ones are, and I'll drop it in the chat box here. EDX is a very popular one. Coursera is very popular. Plural Insights is very popular. There are a few others that I can see over email. If you go to Google Skills Shop, it's also a very popular one. There's a Facebook Blueprint that are also very popular. But literally just Google. You don't even need to know this platform. Just Google how to learn data analysis or data visualization or front-end development, or UI UX. If you're into UI UX, there's a UX. What's it called again? UX. I think UX Academy, the UX University. That you can there are a ton of platforms. You literally will have to cherry pick which ones you want to go for. Some of them offer their courses for free. There are a few that you have to pay, I don't know, $10, $20, but it's absolutely worth it. So there's so many. And what I find interesting is that a lot of the courses that these guys are offering are skill sets that employers are looking to hire for. So, for example, I think about last month, I was working with a startup that was looking to hire a front-end engineer. And we searched and searched and searched, and it was a pain hiring a front-end engineer, a young front-end engineer. And what you would find is that those people that are remotely skilled enough, see their resume and you'd shake their head, right? It's horrible, the typos, there's all sort of color, all of that stuff. So it's like, the skill sets or the roles and the jobs are, it's not, I won't say they are, they are plentiful in terms of they're just lying around, but if you develop yourself and you start showing example of your work, very quickly you find companies that will hire you or that will reach you for roles, right? And
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of questions, so let me just start going through the questions. So Kimberly says, kindly share examples of platforms to automate my reporting.
My favorite, obviously I'm biased, is Data Studio, right?
Data
so
Studio.
just Google Data Studio, and you can get started with that. And if you go on YouTube, you can even find courses on using Data Studio. Using it very, very effectively.
Okay.
But there are a couple of others.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Yamdala is asking, are there opportunities for internships, paid or unpaid? Otherwise, how can one get valuable experience after getting certified?
After getting certified. So I would say the easiest places to reach out to would be more of the younger startup-ish companies, only because they often have more work than there are people to do the work. Also, they are cost conscious, so why they won't proactively announce that they're hiring for interns is because they don't want to spend cash. But if, for instance, I know a few people that have said, you know what, I want to intern at your company, and I would even, it's going to be an unpaid internship. I just want to build expertise, right? And I know Nigerians don't like anything that is unpaid, but look, you have to make sacrifices, especially knowing that this experience. Imagine if I get an internship in, I don't know, a Paystack or a Flutterwave, right? Having that stuff on my resume, even if it's 6 months or 6 months, can make a big difference, right? And that alone, your time spent in that company, even if it was a free internship or whatever, can make a big difference for you over time, right? So I would say, scout companies that really hire talented people in a specific area. Try to build your LinkedIn resume.
Very important.
If you have articles you've written or blog or examples of your work, attach it to your LinkedIn and proactively send an email to the hiring manager or the HR manager And if you can afford it, tell them you're looking for an unpaid internship for just maybe 3 months or whatever. In fact, now with everything that is going on,
And you're working remote.
are working remote. Exactly. So
Yeah,
it's like,
so
oh, great.
really.
Like I have my computer, I have my internet. Just let me,
Yes,
I don't have to pay for transportation. Just let me work in
yes,
the organization, right? And here are
yes.
my skills, right? Here are the things I can do, and here are the things that
Mm-hmm.
I've done, right? And I bet you, if you send that to 10 HR managers, I think at least two of them would respond to you.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. So Olusha is asking, where does tech intercept a course field like psychology?
That's certainly interesting. Um, and I think I'm not an expert in all fields, but I think, as I mentioned earlier, most fields have something to do with data collection,
Mm,
data
yeah,
analysis, communication,
yeah,
etc. So it's a case of you just researching
yeah,
applications of tech, of digital to psychology, field of
yeah,
psychology, and you start seeing materials. So
yeah.
take that as a research project, and I'm sure you'll find things interesting.
Yeah, if I can even add to that, right? So there are apps like BetterHelp. It's an app where you can get a counselor,
Yeah,
and you just literally download the app, and then they ask you a couple of questions about your state of mind and how you're feeling, and they pair you
exactly.
with a counselor. So those are ways that tech is really enhancing,
Exactly. In
and there
fact,
are a lot of them right now. There are a lot of
yeah,
them right
one of my favorite as well, now that you mentioned it, is Headspace. I use
now.
Headspace. Sometimes when I'm overwhelmed with work, I just
Yeah.
like into Headspace and then it tells you to breathe, to focus, to do all of these things.
Wow.
And
Yes.
that's basically a psychologist or whatever
Yes. Yes.
being
Meditation
available to
and all
you
of that.
through an app. Exactly.
Yes.
So it is you thinking about what needs to be done and how
Yes.
can digital technology help me get that task done.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so Mulisha is also asking, we've heard is follow your passion. How do we draw that line? Okay, so I have a question like that also. So let me just tie it together. So you mentioned that you interned at the bank and then they called you back and you just said, no, I'm not doing this. This is not what I want to do. And you decided to just stay back. I'm like, okay, so there's this part where they say, start where you are, just do what you have right now, and you get to where you want to be. So I'm like, how were you able to say no to that and just say, I want to just keep applying, or I want to go and pursue tech, even when you didn't have anything? Just like saying, no, you're following your passion. But how do you follow your passion and not be stupid? Because things are not.
It's a good question, to be honest, and I wouldn't say I have the perfect answer. What I can
Mm,
say is that you need to take calculated risk, right? I guess for me, I figured at the time that, you know what, if I try to get a job of my dream and I don't get it, maybe
mm,
I can get a bank job, and do that for
mm,
a while, right? So there's a place of doing what you have to do so that you
yeah.
can set out to do what you need to do. However, most people are very risk averse. You don't even want to take any chances. You don't want to
Yeah.
explore. You don't want to push yourself. You don't want to challenge yourself. You just go for the easiest option, right? Like before I even got the role in the first company where I did
Yeah.
mobile marketing. Guess what? After my banking role, and my wife doesn't like me saying this, I worked in a pure water factory. I helped them manage. Today I work at Google, one of the best companies in the
You
world.
left a bank for a pure water factory.
When I tell young people that I worked in a bottle, okay, maybe not pure water, it was a bottled water company,
Okay,
right?
water
I was helping them manage
amazing.
quality control and all of that stuff, and they did that for like I think a month or two while still
Wow.
applying where I wanted. So at least I had the reason to go out of the house so I don't become a
Yes.
burden on my parents, right? But again, most people just want to do the fancy things up front, right? And they don't
Mm,
even want to take any risk. They don't want to stretch
mm,
themselves, challenge themselves. So, coming back to the question around passion, right? I
mm.
think first there's a part of calculated risk, right?
Yeah.
Can I take chances? Can I keep applying? Can I go for this role? And if it
Mm,
doesn't work out, I have a backup plan, right?
yeah.
But there's also a part of, as you think about what you want to do long term, you don't think about first something that you enjoy, right? And
Mm,
maybe you can say you're passionate about. Okay, that's fine. I don't like saying passion
yeah.
because even what you're passionate about, when you start doing it day to day, you get tired of it, right?
Yes.
So
Possible.
at least find out that it's something that you enjoy. That's one thing. And I think it's three intersect. It was Jim Collins that really talked about that, the author of Good to Great and
Okay.
Great to Last. So first thing you enjoy. The second thing is that something that you are skilled and you are good at, right? I would never be a great opera singer. I would never be a great surgeon, right? I just like I can't hold something that like that's not me. So I'm not good at that kind of stuff, right? So it doesn't make sense for me to try to be passionate and all of that stuff, right? So something that you enjoy, something that you're
Yes.
good and skilled at. But the third point, which is really critical, is something that drives your economic engine, which
Mm.
means in layman terms, can pay your bills, can
Oh,
put
wow.
soup in your pot, can buy you a car when you need to buy a car,
Very
and that
important.
stuff, right? If those three circles don't come together, then you're going to struggle, in the long term, right? So you might be passionate about something, but you're not skilled in that stuff, and it doesn't drive your economic engine. It's a fail. Or it drives your economic engine, but you don't like it and you're not skilled at it. It's a fail. Or you're skilled at it, you don't like it, it doesn't drive your economic engine. It's a fail. So the sweet spot is something that you enjoy,
Mm.
you're good at in terms of you have the skills for it, and it drives your economic engine. I
Mm.
think those three circles and the intersect of the three circles is where you want to be.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So if you have any other questions, you can drop them in the chat box while we round up. I think that from everything I've heard this night, right? It's like tech adds value, and with tech you can add value. But I think that because I'm looking at everybody in this call, and I know that not everybody is currently in tech, but what we've also heard is that regardless of the economy that you work or the space that you play, you can always apply tech. So it's now for you to now say, okay, so what do I need to, like the video says, the variance, right? So what do I need to do to be different, to add value where I currently am, that is tech enabled, so to speak, because that's how you have value long term. Because I'm looking at the first slide you shared of 2007 to 2017 and the difference. Everybody wanted to work in Shell, but now see, Andela is calling me. Flutterwave,
Exactly.
Flutterwave is downstairs my office, and I see them every time, and I'm like, you guys, if you just have some, some space, I'm available. So there's nothing that okay. So Olushore is raising up her hand. If you want to say something, you can unmute yourself if you want to say something, and let's get that over with. Okay, so yeah, we can always apply tech to wherever economy we are in. So yes, I think we should just pay attention. Okay, yes, the link to the video, we'll share the link to the video on our social media platforms. So if you follow Dreamboard on Twitter, Dreamboard on Instagram, and also our YouTube channel, we'll share the link to the videos. Yes, that's about the link to videos. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining. It was really great. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. Thank you very much, Hayo, for sharing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so it will be uploaded on the YouTube channel, so you can always just watch again. And then we also have a podcast. We have a podcast on Spotify, on Anchor. All these links are on social media, right? We're going to share a link to everything on social media, so you can always just listen on Spotify or do a replay on YouTube at any time of your convenience. Okay, thank you everyone, and this was really lovely. Thank you, Aya. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.
All right.
Bye.
All right, thank you everybody. Bye.